What's up, squad? What's up, crew? Welcome to another Ghost Clover Podcast, the show where, heck, even your hosts don't know the topics. It is March 17th, 2024. It is St. Patty's Day, so happy St. Patty's Day to everybody out there. Hopefully, you're wearing green. If not, well, you're subject to a pinch. So just be aware that that is could be, I guess, a thing.
What if we're wearing green but still want to be pinched?
This is true. Yeah, I guess that could be optional, right? The pinch is optional, I suppose. So yeah, we are powered here by European American Armory by EAA, and we'll talk more about them a little later on here in the show, respectively. Members of Self Defense Radio Network as well as Firearms Radio Network, both awesome places to go find some pro gun, pro 2A, hunting, reloading, all kinds of cool podcasts. So make sure you go check out both of those networks as well. And let's get Ghost in here. The Ghostess with the mostest. What's up, man?
Yeah. So not much. Happy St. Patty's Day. Being Irish, I know you're Irish as well. The great thing about me, I never have to wear green because I have a tattoo of a leprechaun on my chest. So if anyone ever says you're not wearing green, I need to show the tattoo, and I'm always wearing green. Damn it.
Yeah, yeah. I've worn green most of the day. I've got to even look to see. Yeah, I'm still good. Um, I changed shirts. It got a little cool here. We were talking about that in the pre-chat. It's got
Yeah.
a little cool here, and I had to put on a little bit longer sleeves earlier. But yeah, I've still got some green enough that I guess it counts, right?
Well, I wore a green hoodie today, so even though I
Right,
don't have to, technically, I still wore a green hoodie today.
right.
Chico
Um,
says, did he just say he's a clover tattoo on his chest? Hey, what you don't know won't hurt you, man.
that was a big check I had to cut for that.
Big check. That's
Big check.
prime advertising space, you know.
Man, yeah, that's checks in perpetuity for that one for sure. Um, yeah, no, can't afford that. Um, man, what was I? There was something. Oh, need to mention for those filing in. Um, yeah, keep in mind that you do want to stick around, you do want to hang out, you do want to comment in the chat, and you do want to be ready for our viewer segment at the end of the show. That's where somebody out there is going to get the opportunity to pick what we talk about. But um,
You must be
leaving us,
present to win, kind of almost, you know.
well, yeah, you've got about a minute once we call your name on that. But yeah, with that said, you have the first topic, man. So where are we going with this train wreck?
This train wreck's going to start with a topic. I'll have a video coming out next weekend about it, but it's a topic that most people will be surprised that's on the channel. Dots on pistols. Now, most people know that I am not, or historically have not been, a big fan of dots on pistols. I like my open sights and all of that. But I wanted to kind of talk about it, maybe some pros and cons, and get your feedback. 'Cause I know in the last year you've also kind of,
Oh
whether or
God,
not you enjoyed it or not, you have kind of you dove into
it was the year of
some
red
dot
dots.
game. You know,
It was
yeah,
the last half of the year of red dots
yeah, yeah.
for sure. Yeah, yeah,
Historically before this past year, I know you were a lot like me, where not that you were really against it, it was just not your cup of tea almost, you know?
yeah. Most of mine had to do. It wasn't carry optics. It was
Yeah.
more competition, range time, maybe hunting, but mostly just competition and range time. So totally different game. I think once you start talking carry optics for sure.
Where do you stand now? Are you starting to are there benefits or are there things that you do like about it? I mean, are you starting to kind of maybe change your train of thought here or no?
I don't think so. I think I'm still, for the most part, an irons guy. Um, because bulks and snags, and here's a weird thing that I have. with dots, and this is a perk, and it probably shouldn't be. Um, the chat out there, I mean, definitely chime in, and
Yeah.
if replay, comment down below too. Let me know what you think about this. But I find myself racking the slide a lot with the dots.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Um, and I mean, that is a little bit of, when we're doing the T&E and we're testing stuff out, I mean, that sort of, speaks to the reliability and a lot of the other, factors with those dots or whatever. And I got to say, out of all the ones that I've played with all the slide racking and stuff that's went on with those dots, I, hadn't had an issue. So, I don't know if there's a taboo around doing that or not. Now, everything is, screwed in tight, locked tight,
Yep.
all that good stuff. Um, so I would say, I think that, given that you've got a dot that could handle that, uh,
Hmm.
possibly one of the perks, it does make things a little easier to rack, even if you're
Yeah.
racking in a conventional way, right?
Sure.
I'm not talking about racking on a table or, a belt or doing something like that. I'm not even talking that, but just a normal rack. You've got kind of
Right.
something back there larger than your rear sight that acts as sort of a hand stop, which can assist in racking that slide. And I think that maybe is a perk.
Yeah, I think yeah, obviously that is one of the perks. I think what I have found messing with some of the dots that I've got on guns now, a couple things that kind of jump out into mind. One, obviously, maybe follow up shots. Now, obviously, we're talking carry necessarily here. Competition's a whole different ball game. I think a lot of people will give you there's a long list of benefits probably for the competition game, but for carry optics and all of that. But yeah, follow up shots should be pretty good. I will say that the biggest benefit that I have noticed is that, for me at least, and I don't want to speak for anybody else, but for me, it kind of forces your mechanics to be consistent on presentation. Where if you don't present consistently the same way, it's going to take you some time to kind of find that dot. So it does kind of force maybe good habits in presentation, or at least to be consistently presenting the same way to pick up that dot quickly. So I think that that's obviously a perk, and it might help with people that are maybe newer shooters that don't have a lot of experience in just overall repetition of the presentation, to where maybe with the dot it forces them to kind of present the same way every time to sort of pick up that dot. Now, once again, that's just something for maybe practice and mechanics, but it is a perk. It does force you to have
Yeah.
proper mechanics, or I should say, consistent mechanics.
Yeah. And I think, I mean, if you're talking about, man, if you're talking about defensive use,
Yeah.
very close range, even having sights, I think, on there, even having irons on there, you're not using
Oh yeah,
those.
you're
I
going to
mean,
point and shoot in
hopefully,
in that scenario
yeah,
probably.
hopefully you're not taking the time and line, proper side alignment and all that. Hopefully, it's
Yeah.
muscle memory. You're pulling up, you're going bang, you're getting it done. Um, but either way, I mean, trigger time with any of your any of the handguns in your EDC rotation. I think trigger time is super important, and anytime it can be more enjoyable, and that could be shooting it at a longer distance or
Yep.
whatever. And one of the things that I find with dots and in a few specific dots in particular is just how quick the target acquisition is and the transition and stuff is. It's much quicker. Again, if you're actually shooting for accuracy, or at least
Yeah.
somewhat shooting for accuracy in transition, I do think that dots are a little bit quicker, and again, some of them are even quicker than that.
Yeah, I think the transition side of it, especially maybe for competition and all of that, 100%, I would say that transitioning from target to target is going to be much quicker with the dots. I will say this: I've had problems, and you've witnessed it in person. I have had problems with my lack of experience with dots on pistols. Um, my biggest issue is trying to retrain myself how to see that, right.
Yeah.
I shoot dots on everything on rifles and all that. That said, for some reason, there's a mental block maybe with pistols that I always seem to want to absolute co-witness or dot the I with that dot on top of that front sight. And that's going to basically force everything low. And then once I kind of break that mental barrier of saying, hey, it's just
Yeah.
like a little red dot, put that dot on the target and shoot. It doesn't have to be
Yeah.
co-witnessed.
Forget you have
That's
irons. Yeah.
something, yeah, exactly. Forget you have irons, but that's something that for me, because I learned how to shoot on irons and on all that. And I've done that for years and years and years. And now it's just something that I have to learn. And I want to hear out there from the crowd, whether you're here live or listening in replay or the podcast, use a comment section. When you guys are out there and you first started using dots, I'm asking you this to you, Clover, as well. When you first, started using a dot, did you have problems kind of retraining your eye? And then the second question I want to ask you, Clover, because I'm still learning how to shoot dots and you've got more experience than I do in it. Are you focusing on that dot like you would a front sight, or are you basically looking at the target and when the dot gets on that target, you're pulling the trigger?
I'm looking through it. Yeah,
Yeah.
totally.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, what was the other question? Were you focusing on the target? And there was another one.
When
No,
when you first started kind of shooting dots, did you have problems with
not
maybe
really.
co-witnessing, or is it pretty simple transition? For
Not
me, it's been a
really, but
difficult transition to dots for me.
so here's one of the differences, right, with me. Again, my experience with dots, I mean, was going on in what, the early mid 2000s or so, right? So for, let's say, 20 years now, I've been shooting dots in some fashion, generally, again, competition or range fun. Um, and and usually the dots are not on anything that also has irons.
Yeah.
So, like, the buck mark has a rail, and usually I just go ahead and remove the front side as well. It's one screw and it's gone. You ain't got to worry about it. So, even if you're talking about, a lot of times red dots aren't even on a rifle, but especially on a handgun. The 17L
Hmm.
is a rear dovetail mounting plate. So
Yeah.
obviously the rear sight was gone, and I went ahead and removed the front sight too because the rear sight was gone. Who cared?
Yeah.
And so what I'm saying is, um, I was always used to not having the irons to worry about anyway. So
Sure. Yeah, I get that.
it's a little different situation than you kind of getting into it, and you've got those irons that exist. It was a that really never was a thing for me. So for me to pick up one with a dot now, if it's got a dot, I'm not paying attention to the irons. It's like they don't even
Sure.
exist because it has a dot. Now, should the dot go down? Yeah, 100%. I would start looking at the irons, or I would be aiming off of the sometimes the groove or the marker, the line, the indicator at the rear of some of
Yeah.
the red dots that have that. Sure, at that point, but again, I mean, you're talking about for the most part with me, competition range fun. So, um, and again, I can't stress it enough. I think in a defensive situation, it's going to be irrelevant what you're running. It's going to be pretty much pulling fire. I mean, I don't see. Yeah, I mean, we've seen some self defense stories in the past few years that were, you know, uh, out there a little ways, let's just say. But
Mm.
you take something like in your home, like a home defense situation. Man, if you're 20 feet, there's a 21
Yep.
feet rule, right? Is the rule.
Right. Yep.
How many rooms in your house are 21 feet? How much of a straight shot do you have in your house that's 21 feet? Be that down a hallway or whatever, without having to go through a door or around a corner.
Hmm.
And then, if you're talking dark alleyway, somebody coming up on you in a parking lot, they're going to be closing distance. And so,
Yep.
you know, it's you don't have time. You're not going to have time for that in most cases. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. And now, real quick,
Uh-huh.
Chicago Mike out there.
I was
Uh,
gonna say this too.
I got to say this. He said, "Come on, bro. Come on now." He says, "If your gun explodes, the glass from the red dot can shatter in your face.
If
But
your
if you're
gun
gonna,
explodes, you
you got
have bigger
bigger
issues than,
problems.
yeah,
You
exactly. I was
got
going to say the
way
exact
bigger.
same thing.
You
You've
got
got
way
bigger
bigger
problems than
problems.
glass in your
So
face. You've got
yeah,
probably missing maybe some fingers, probably.
yeah. Work on your reasons not to have a red dot, because that's yeah, that one's kind of out there.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Stop by
Uh,
Beretta, Mike. That's all I gotta say.
yeah, right, right. Yeah, I mean, so if you're out there, let us know what's your thoughts on dots on pistols. Are you anti? Are you pro? Are you transitioning like I am? Or at least I'm not saying I'm transitioning. I would say I am giving them a chance and working with some to see where that might lead. We talked earlier about this podcast being powered by our good friends over at EAA, or European American Armory. We do want to talk about them. Got a chance to shoot the Disruptor. Got it about a week or so ago. First time to shoot it was last week. I went to the range and put about 100 rounds through it. Man, oh man, that thing is nice. But I know that you actually, speaking of EAA, you had a good time last weekend in Dallas with an event that you were actually representing EAA.
I did. I got roped into, what is it? The
Yeah, you did. You got thrown
GOA.
under the bus. Yeah.
I did. The GOA's National Women's Range Day event. Um, and it started out, we knew about this, maybe 2 weeks, and probably more like 10 days before it even happened. And it started out as, our good friend Ginger, of course, and he was like, "Hey, we may need help, with this event." And I'm like, "Well, we're not but a few hours away, still a hotel stay, but not that big a deal." My wife kind of, was acted interested in going to it as well, and it's like, "Hey, we'll come up, we can help load mags and set up, or whatever.
RSO or whatever you
We're
need.
there to, yeah, we're there to help." And then that turned into, like, literally a day or two before the event, turned into, "Hey, EAA can't get here. Bring your Gerson handguns. Go by Bass Pro and buy a buttload of ammo that my credit card was smoking on, and because it was not cheap, and
Bass Pro, yeah, I can
come
imagine.
basically come work the range." And man, a bunch of female influencers on that Friday, and then Saturday was the public day, and it was nonstop chicks shooting from 10 in the morning to probably 4 or so in the evening. Like, literally had maybe 30 minutes. Again, Ginger and was coming down the line, kind of relieving everybody in like 30-minute increments, or however long you could scarf a sandwich and use the bathroom and get back in there, basically. So
Right.
maybe 30 minutes max, but a lot of ladies, coming through. And um, first year for that event, was there issues? Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, there was some issues with that event, and the GOA that, Ginger and all them, they'll tell you that. Um, but overall, with the turnout and everything else, it was not a bad event. It was effective as far as the outreach, I think, which was pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and then, yeah, on the way, picked up my 1911 Untouchable in 45 ACP
Nice.
from
Nice.
EAA. So I have not had a chance to put a single round down that thing. Um, but it is cool. And if you're not familiar with the 1911, the Untouchable is what they call it. It is a custom from the factory camo Cerakote that is pretty doggone cool. Same as your Disruptor, I think. Same pattern on those,
Did
isn't
you
it?
get the green camo or the black?
Yeah, I got the green camo. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a sweet camo pattern for sure. Yeah, I like it a lot. Feels great in the hand. Like I said, I put about 100 rounds through it. That video, I'll probably get a video out in the next couple of weeks with that. Yeah, so far so good. It is an RMSC optic plate, optic cut, and I'm waiting on an optic that is RMSC, because the one that I have are RMR mostly. So I'm waiting for an RMSC to come from a company. Well, I can tell them we're sponsored this one, but Monstrum. I'm going to be getting an RMSC optic from them to put on the Disruptor. Eventually, we'll talk about that when the time comes. But yeah, I know that it was a pretty successful. I was talking to you, and I talked to Ginger quite a bit. Talked to talked to Chase and all of them. It seemed like a pretty successful event. For the first one, yeah, there could be some hiccups, but they got some things they can fix and all that. The next one will be very, very good. But yeah, I'm glad that you did that. And I'm sure EAA was proud and happy that you were able to fill in and bring some of their products. I was surprised by talking with you because I knew that the 14T, the tip up, especially the ones that are designed for the ladies, I thought would be the one. But you said that actually that was not the hit of the weekend.
Yeah, it was an interesting weekend all around. So had a conversation, and I took the Witness 2311. I took
Mm-hmm.
um, um, the Gerson High Power Lightweight PI, and I
Mm-hmm.
took the MC14T, the tip up. And they
Just
were
the tip.
really pushing the tip up. They really wanted the tip
Well,
up,
sure.
right?
Yeah,
And so,
absolutely.
yeah, I get it. The hand strength issues, and they've got the lady version of that, all the other stuff. But so get there and set up before the women influencers got to shoot on Friday. So we were setting up and just function checking everything. And first round out of my Witness 2311 went bang, and the hammer did not cock. And
Ah,
so I clear, I check it. It had loaded another round. I'm like, that's it. That's strange. Put that round back in, magazine back in, racket, bang. Hammer does not. Uh, the hammer does not cock back. I'm like, huh. So move the slide back just ever so slightly. There's a round in there. Okay, cool. Well, let me cock the hammer manually. I cocked the hammer manually and basically ND. Now I ND downrange. I had muzzle
yeah,
directions
sure,
was
sure.
followed. But it was enough that the RO or whatever on the range runs over there. He's like, "Whoa, man, did you just have an ND?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, I had an ND." I said, "I pulled the hammer back." I said, "This thing, I'm having problems." I said, "I'm trying to figure out what the problems are." I
Yeah,
said, "It was downrange," and he's like, "Oh, okay." And so we stood there, and him and I looked at it and ascertained that there's something going on with the sear. So, unfortunately, I had to send that 2311 back to EAA on Monday. So it should have arrived Friday.
it did. Chase
Hopefully,
said it came in Friday.
yeah. Hopefully, I haven't talked to Paul or any of them, but hopefully they can figure out what went south. Because what's crazy about that is I've had zero trouble out of
Yeah, I
12 or
have yet to happen with
1500 or
mine.
12 or 1500 rounds through that thing. And all it did was get put in a case and taken to that event. And like I take it out of the box, and the very first couple of times, or very first time, I guess I fired it, something broke or something. I don't know. I don't know what's going
I
on.
know.
So hopefully we'll hear back. But so that whittled us down to having just two. The high power lightweight, Gerson high power lightweight PI, and the 14T, and by far the 14T was the fan favorite. The ladies, they thought the tip up was really neat, but they enjoyed shooting the high power way more. And part of it is just, and I talked to Paul with EAA about this like last Sunday. Um, Part of that is just the way that the Gerson high power is designed. That
Yeah,
extended beaver tail, that single action trigger, that
yeah.
he's just uh, little bit, bigger handgun. It just handles. It's designed for the 9 millimeter, right? I mean, it just handles
Hmm.
everything so much better. It's such a sweet shooter. Um, yeah, so it kind of surprised me in a little bit, and then in talking when I was at the event, I'm like, "Dang, I'm up here and they're really wanting to push this tip up, and
Right.
everybody is loving the high power." But then when I talked to Chase and I talked to Paul, at EAA, and they were not surprised with that at all. They're like, "Oh, we're
Sure.
not surprised that they enjoy it. They're like the high power's a phenomenal shooter."
You want
So
one handgun of the year, let's be honest.
yeah, they're
Yeah.
like, "It's a phenomenal shooter," and so they
Oh, it
weren't
is.
disappointed or anything. We still got the tip up in front of a lot of ladies, and there were several that were interested in it because of, dexterity issues and things
Sure.
like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Coop says out there, if your sear is messed up and you have a malfunction pointing down range, I would not call that an ND, Clover. Well, it is an ND, whether or not it was an ND. An ND is an ND. And it's okay because he
I
was
didn't
doing
mean for
everything
it to go
safe.
off, and
That's
that's an
right.
ND.
So
Yeah,
it is technically an ND. But
yeah.
let's be interested about this because we talk NDs a lot. People kind of get scared for admitting I can't even count how many NDs I've had over my lifetime. Anyone that shoots a lot is going to have an ND. It happens.
Yeah.
It's not that you're doing it on purpose. Obviously, it wouldn't be an ND if you were doing it on purpose. It's a mistake. Now, that said, if you haven't had an ND yet, you will, and that's okay. Just learn from it. And like you said, hopefully you were doing everything safely like you were, Clover. Everything was going pointed down range, doing the right things, and no one was hurt. It is what it is, you know.
Yeah, if it's, that's the thing about an ND. If you're following the rules of safety,
Yeah.
at least one of the rules of safety, muzzle direction, right? An ND, is it going to be scary? Yeah. Is it going to freak you out? Yeah. But it's still going to be.
You'll get through it, and it's going to
Yeah,
happen
yeah, yeah.
again. I
You'll work
promise you.
through it. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
You've got the next topic, my man. What you got coming up?
Man,
How are you going to stump the goob list?
shocker here, but I want to talk 3D printing, man.
I bet you do. Yes, I bet you do.
I
I have
have.
zero to offer this conversation.
Oh, but you may have questions or whatever. So,
Yeah.
I have officially been 3D printing
It's about
for
time.
about 30 something hours now. So,
Yeah.
I don't even know. It was around lunchtime, maybe a little after yesterday. I put a post out on a community post. I'm like, look, this 3D printer has been sitting in a box here for over a year.
Yeah.
Not much longer than a year, but over a year. And I'm like, I'm gonna make. I think Friday I put that out maybe, and I'm like, look, or maybe it was Thursday, and I'm like, Saturday I'm putting this printer together.
Yeah.
So I broke down and I did put it together. And it didn't take nearly as long as I thought to get it together and everything kind of configured and start the first print. I mean, maybe a couple of hours, something like that. And since then, I have come a long way with that thing. So very
Right.
happy to finally get that dude set up and going.
Now you sent me a text yesterday with a cool little Batman thing. Was that the
Yeah.
first thing you printed, or
That
what was
was
the actual first thing you printed?
Yeah, first thing I printed, and it didn't even technically it didn't even malfunction or mess up, which is crazy. The
Yeah.
very first thing I printed was the little Batman
Okay.
symbol
Cool.
keychain. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now it looks like crap. If you
Eh,
if you
that's what
blow
it
that
is.
picture up and look, you can see holes in it,
Yeah. Yeah.
basically. Well, there's a reason for that, and there's settings and things that have to be. You download and again, for anybody out there that's advanced 3D printer, I'm gonna sound like a moron, right?
Yeah.
Because
Ozzy says he's been printing for 45 years, so I would say he
yeah,
probably thinks you're a moron.
yeah. So I've been printing for 30 hours or whatever, right? So forgive me for the nomenclature. Forgive me if I'm naive or excited about something that's silly, or maybe even talking about something that may not even be accurate, to be quite honest with you.
Or
It's
just
just
being
based on my
ignorant because
experience.
you are. You don't know, you know?
But so the reason it had holes in it, you download a file, and then I have to run that file. I have to slice that file. I have to put that file into a slicer, and so Creality, the company that makes the Ender 3 printer, the one I've got, phenomenal printer by the way, by all accounts, here as a starter printer. Um, but you got to put it in that program, and there's some settings. And one of those settings is called the infill, INFILL, infill. And so that's kind of how dense the print is or whatever. And so it was set to pretty low quality by default and a pretty low infill.
And you
And
didn't
so,
know that you were supposed to change
yeah,
that
I
to
didn't
begin
realize.
with.
I didn't
Yeah.
realize that. So I was able to figure that out. I did the Batman thing, and I screwed up. I don't know how many prints till I figured out the whole infill thing and the temperature on the bed and the temperature on the extruder, and there was several hours there of just screwing up all kinds of prints.
Yeah.
Um, and I was working on a little keychain screwdriver bit tool thing. And that's the one I was working on when it I screwed up so many times. And anyway, I was finally able to get one of those, get the settings worked out, and get one of those I was happy with.
Yeah.
Since then, I've pretty much been off to the races. I've actually got a hand stop that probably by the time we get done with this podcast, will be finished printing an M-lock hand stop.
Nice.
Um,
You and I were
so
talking on the phone last night about some really cool things. If you could, the things that we can come up with, I'm sure everyone else has already come up with. So there's got to be a file
dude,
somewhere out there. But there's a couple of things I think would be kind of cool.
yeah. So there's so many sources out there, and the one
Yeah.
I've been looking through, and there again, the people who've been doing it forever. Yeah, I mean, rattle them off out there in the chat, the different places to get files, whatever. But Thingiverse is the one I've been going to, and man, it's just crazy just to search different stuff on there. I
Yeah.
typed in I don't know how many different things into the search, and just thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of files. So odds are, if there's something that you want to do, you want to make, there's probably already a file for it. Quite
Yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
and it
Scott
might.
wants. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I say Scott wants to know: do they make different types of filaments, or do you have to change printers?
So this is an advanced question. I'm going to give you, Scott, to the
It's an advanced
best of my
question. You're going to
knowledge.
give the beginner answer.
You can run. Yes, they make different filaments. Don't give me the line, the differences or pros and cons of them. But one of the things I can tell you about them is the heat that is required is different on a lot of them, and so certain printers can't do certain filaments without some upgrades and different
Gotcha.
things where they'll get hotter, basically, right?
Yeah,
So I
gotcha.
can't tell you that, but yeah, some of the filaments are stronger than others, or whatever the case may be. Right now,
Right.
I'm just printing out of the standard, what they call PLA, which I think is just your normal. Most people that are printing knickknacks and things like that are just using cheap PLA.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, so got everything set up. Like I said, got the little screwdriver tool done, and kind of was on a roll. And I'm like, So I got to looking around, and what's interesting is all the little upgrades and things that you can print for your printer. So I got on a kick with that, and um, did a modification for the printer spool, for the filament spool,
Hmm.
so that it feeds from a more forgiving angle. The angle on it was really, really steep, almost like a 90-degree angle, the way it's set up stock. And a lot of people advised against that and didn't like that. So, printed the part for that, got that installed. I printed a little tool holder rack thingy
Yeah.
that all the tools for the printer, the wrenches and the screwdrivers and the clippers and the things go in. I printed. There's a fan that's underneath the bed, and the fan faces up and it's completely open. So if you're cleaning off the bed, if you're doing things, you can get crap down in that fan. And there was some people that said, "Hey, go get a printer file and build you a cover, print you a cover for that fan." So I got a cover printed for that, and then I've got a little. Uh, what am I thinking? A little. Um, oh heck, like a little basket or a little bin that attaches to the very top rail.
Hmm.
Just for whatever springs for I've got my SD card reader thing, micro SD card reader thing in it, right now, but it's just
Yeah.
a little storage bin that hangs up there for whatever you need to put in it.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of other upgrades that I probably will print for the thing before it gets done. But I took a break before I go to bed. Like I said, the hand stop should be done by the time we get to now
Yeah.
with this podcast. And then I'm going to start. There is a bin, a storage bin. There's a gap between the control module under the bottom where all the electronics are, I guess. That's what I'm going to call it. And then the LCD readout where you actually do your settings. There's a gap
Mhm.
underneath there, and they make a drawer that you can put under there, like a
Sure.
storage drawer, right?
Yeah. Sure.
And so that's like an 8-hour print. And so
Yeah.
that's gonna go on before I go to bed tonight.
So when you say an
I'll put that up.
8-hour print,
Yeah.
What size, what dimensions are we talking that would take an 8 hours to print?
So it's hollow because it's just a box. It's a
Sure.
drawer, right? It's not solid by any stretch of the imagination. And it is, I'm going to say, ooh, like 6 by 6 by maybe 3, maybe
Okay.
4, 3 to 4,
Okay.
something like that. 6 by 6, kind of
But
square.
the more hollow you have something, the longer it takes, right?
The more hollow, the quicker it would be because that's
The
less it's having
quicker.
to print. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Okay.
But that's sort of what the infill has to do with I was talking about before,
Yeah.
right? It's kind of how dense it is. So if you're doing something solid, like the hand stop, I've got that cranked up to like a 50%, I think, infill on it.
Okay. Okay.
I really didn't see any reason with that. I don't think there's going to be enough. I think that's going to be sturdy enough. I don't
Yeah.
see any reason to go any higher. And you can get online, and I did, and get online, and you can look at what a cross section of the different infill percentages look like, and
Right.
so you can kind of get an idea how dense it is. And once you get up around 40, 50, there's not a huge difference in like 40 and 50, and let's say 80% infill,
Right.
right? It's pretty sturdy. So if you want some structural integrity, you want a better infill. Also, if it's something that has like a top on it or something,
Mm.
you've got to have infill in order to create that top. So, for example, the fan cover, right? It's kind of like a dome, that fan
Yeah.
cover I printed. So, obviously, it's got to do infill or whatever, what am I thinking? Support, like infill support or whatever
Sure.
underneath the dome part. And then once you get through printing, you just break that out. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, this particular one, the drawer, the way it prints, there won't be any infill on it. It's just basically a bottom and 4 sides, and there's 2 little clippity things on
Clippity
one side.
things.
Yeah, I don't know
Awesome.
what you call it, but they hang into the grooves on the rail on the printer. That way it can slide back and forth. Um, so they're almost like the shape of an arrow or something
Yeah.
that allow it to hang in there and slide. Um, but yeah, the bigger it is, the more dense it is. Obviously, the longer it's going to take to print, and
Sure.
that will be the longest print I've ever done. 8 hours at this point. I think about 4 is the up until this point. About 4 is about the longest I've done up until now. So yeah.
Now, Coop says you can change the orientation on the prints also and supports to change the print speed. So that's interesting.
Yeah, that's above my pay grade and knowledge right now. Like
Yeah.
other than adjusting some settings and slicing, manipulating anything in the software, like I have no clue. I have not played with any of
Yeah.
that yet.
Yeah, you'll get there.
But yeah, you can do a lot of stuff. You can change stuff. Like the bin that I created, I would
Hmm.
like that bin, and I know there's got to be an easy way to stretch that. I would like that to be longer, like maybe 3 times as long as it is.
Yeah.
You know. I'm okay with the width and the depth and everything else on it, but if it was about 3 times longer, you could put a screwdriver in it. You know what I mean? I mean, it'd be a
Yeah.
little more useful than what it is now. And so I think that I'm gonna think that I may try to do that as part of the printing stuff. So
Yeah. Scott wants to know if you're ever going to try to do a stock or a grip. Well, you did a hand stop, so obviously you'll probably
yeah,
continue to go further with that stuff, wouldn't you?
I've looked at 1911 grips already, so that's
Oh,
on the
nice.
on the
There you go.
table. Grips are going to be one of the things that could be iffy. It just depends on what kind of patterns are available.
Yeah.
A lot of grips, 1911 grips, just your normal 1911 grips, have no inlet, right? They're completely flat on the back.
Yep.
But if you're talking about other handguns, a lot of them have inlets on the back,
Yep.
channels and things that are cut out where other things ride or fit.
Hmm.
They're not completely smooth or flat. So starting out with some 1911, probably I'll try that first,
Yeah.
and then maybe play around with some other grips as we move forward. I need to get some different filaments too. All of my filaments came from Amazon, the Amazon Vine program. So
Yeah.
it's black and white. I think I got a pink, and then I got some kind of weird multicolor looking one. Um, So I don't have any filaments. Like for the 1911 grips, I'd honestly like to find like a brown, almost like a Bakelite or a plastic, whatever you want to call it, type of a brown.
Yeah, that'd be kind of cool. I know that you were
Yeah.
talking about doing maybe you found some designs for a couple ammo holders, and we were
Mm,
talking about maybe done a cool thing for like an M-Lock magazine holder that would go horizontal on
mm,
like the hand guard. That'd be kind of a cool, like a Glock mag for like a PCC or
for
something.
PCC, yeah,
That would
yeah,
be really a kind of a, man. Like you said, the ideas are limitless, and hopefully, if you're not into the design game yet, hopefully people out there have felt the same thing and created a design that you like. So it'd be kind
right,
of cool to play with, and
yeah.
I'm sure we'll see all sorts of cool stuff down the line from the 3D printing for sure.
Yep, yep. I've refrained from posting anything, pew pew related,
Yeah,
3D printed on YouTube because I've legit seen channels get taken down.
yeah.
So I've tried to stick to just the knickknacks and the accessories
Patty
and
wax.
the other stuff. But we may have to post that stuff over on the Facebook group. So get over on the Cloverfield
I don't.
if you're
What's
on
Facebook now?
Facebook,
I don't know what
or
that
maybe
is.
the I even start putting them on the IGs. So
Yeah, yeah.
or something, pictures of
Ah,
that stuff.
Scott says if you're a reloader, die holders would be cool. Yeah, there's all
Mm.
sorts of stuff that you could, all sorts of organizational stuff that you can do for
Yeah,
sure.
I definitely want to print some stuff for my dang it, for my, what am I thinking? My tool heads. I couldn't
Yeah,
think of the word. Tool heads for my Dillon press.
yeah, sure.
I've got a wooden rack that those sit in now, and it being wood, it takes up a lot of space,
Yeah, yeah.
and I could really downsize that a lot if it was 3D printed. So we're gonna try that. Um, let's move on.
Yeah.
What do you think? And do our viewer segment. Um, so we're going to give you guys the. Let's see. Get the screen share up. Gonna give you guys the skinny on what you need to do. Here it is, right? Boom, there. And
No
type
hashtag, just the number two, huh?
no hashtag. Just type the number 2 in the chat, and that's gonna get you eligible to give us a third and final topic of the night. So type a 2 in the chat if you're out there. We're going to
And
talk
please
about,
hit the live button.
yeah, that's what I was going to say. We're going to talk about Monster Tactical here a little bit, give you all guys a chance to type that 2. Yeah, if you're hearing this, make sure you do click live on the screen, refresh something. That way you're live. But if you want to be chosen to pick a topic, yeah, type the
And
number
if you
2.
would do us all a favor, have your topic ready to go. So when we do call your name out and you
True.
get
This
chosen,
is
just go
true.
ahead and type it in there as
Yeah,
quickly
be
as
about
possible.
it right now. Yeah. Yeah, you know what you want us to talk
It
about
doesn't have
right
to
now.
be. It doesn't have to be pew pew related. It can be
Yep.
anything that won't get us kicked off of
Anything.
podcast platforms or YouTube. It could be
Absolutely.
food. It could be whatever, whatever you guys want to talk about. And
Yep.
if we don't know what we're talking about, we will. We can handle that too.
Right. Right. So, Monstrum Tactical, for
Monstrum
thanks
tactical.
to those guys for helping out with the
Oh yeah,
viewer segment here. Yeah, Monstrum, go ahead.
yeah. I threw the Banshee on. I took out the
Banshee.
Anderson Frontline 10.5 over the
Mhm.
weekend. Do some testing with that. Actually, the video came out Saturday, so go check that on the channel. But we threw the Banshee on there, the 1-10 by 24 LPVO on there, and I'm not gonna lie, I love the Banshee, but I was a little hesitant on putting it on the 10.5 inch system, thinking it might just be too big, it might look awkward. You guys go watch the video, let me know. I think it looks pretty badass on that frame. So yeah, Montrum does some great work. We're waiting on another dot. I got my box of stuff in about 10 days ago. And he sent me a whole bunch of stuff. So there'll be a bunch of Monstrum stuff coming down the line. We got some red dots. We got some magnifiers out there. I love, and I think that they did this. I think Chris was did this on purpose. the 2x magnifier that they have is called the Ghost. And I think they did that because of me. I'm almost certain that's because of me. Don't you think?
There, even the 3X and 4X is a Ghost. But
Are they too? Well, I just got the
G3
2x.
and
So,
yeah.
but I think that was
Yeah.
100% named after me. I mean,
So
I'm going to say that at least.
So it has nothing to do with the name, but I do not like a magnifier. Now that said, the monster magnifiers I've got two. I've got the Ghost and the Ghost G3, which is the 4X. So I've got a 3X and a 4X. And they work and they're fine. But they'll never really go on anything because I don't like a magnifier.
Yeah.
That being said, I've got the Panzer, which is basically, for lack of a better way to put it, it's the first focal plane version of the Banshee.
Yeah, sure.
And I've got it on. I put it on the Hammerly Force straight pull bolt action 22. Simply because I was like, what am I going to put this on? And I'm like, you know what? I got to play around with this little 22 rifle. I might as well. Man, that's nice. And I can't remember if it's a 1-8 or a 1-10 by 24, but it does have a little bit different reticle in it. I can't remember if that's the DX1. Is that the DX1 or whatever reticle? It's got the square with the dot.
It's not a simple dot, but yeah.
And I like that. But this one is a T-bar or whatever with a circle dot in the middle.
Yeah.
And dang, I'm really liking it too. But that's one of the things we had when we had Chris with Monstrum on the and by the way, keep putting number 2 in the chat.
Yeah, keep on going, boys and girls.
Want to pick our last topic of the evening. But when we had Chris with Monstrum on the podcast at SHOT Show, he talked about reticle designs and how he was kind of involved, and the guys were, and they were always looking at cool, innovative, whatever you want to call it, reticle designs. And
sure,
man, so far with every reticle I've looked at, that's Monstrum stuff. Like, I like them. I don't know which one's my favorite at this point. Like, they're all pretty neat.
Yeah, I tell you, the one that, I mean, he sent me a whole bunch of like 5, 6, 7 different things in this box, which I'm happy for. But I tell you what I'm most excited about trying is the Arc Saber. I got the Arc Saber, the weapon mounted light, and obviously I'm a big light fan from Streamlight and all of that. But I've never had one of Monstrum's lights before, so I am interested in that because it's another option that if this works well and it's a good light and it's a good weapon system light and all that, well, that's just another budget friendly light system for people. So I'm looking for. I think I'm going to put that on one of the PCCs and run it, one of the quad rails, either the Anderson or maybe the SAR PCCs, but we're going to run that on one of those and see how it goes. But yeah, like I said, Monstrum, been working with them for a long time, at least probably 4 years, 4 or 5 years, whatever it's been. Great people over there, great products. And I love what they talk about. And when Chris was on your podcast, he says, we know who we are. They're very aware of who they are. They're not trying to be someone that they're not. They want to own who they are and own that market share of where they are. And I love that about them.
Yep. Well, I've got, one of the ones. I've got a little, it's a Noblex footprint. So it's a Vortex Venom Burris Fastfire 3, style footprint.
Yeah.
That's Monstrum. That's called the Raven, and I think that's their first offering in something like that. And I was doing some Amazon influencer videos the other day, and with some of the Monstrum stuff, and I was kind of disappointed that come in a box that was, well, it was waiting for me here when we got back from SHOT Show, actually.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh man, they got one of the little micro red dots, sweet, and it's not even on Amazon. So I do think
the Raven's not. Is that just the Raven?
not. Yeah,
Yeah,
the Ravens, what they call it. It
yeah,
is on their website, so that's good. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I was like, dang, they don't even have this up on the big platform yet. So,
yeah.
yeah, let's spin the wheel here. We've got a few entries. We've got way less entries than we have people watching. And if you're one of the ones that have not typed two in the chat that is not participating, and you watched the show last week, you're rolling the dice. That's all I gotta say. So speaking of rolling the dice, let's spin this thing, and
No whammies.
whoever comes up will have about a minute to about un momento to give us their
Scott.
topic. So Scott out there,
Scott's already been asking some great questions tonight,
he
so we'll
has,
get the official question of the night.
and Scott was active just a couple of minutes ago. So Scott, you got 30 seconds. We need your topic, please. So we'll run this thing for 30 seconds to a minute, something like that. I said a minute earlier, I think. I'm
I
changing the
think you
rules on
did. Yeah,
everybody.
you're being willy nilly
Go
with the
figure.
rules out here, you know.
And it's not too late until Scott answers to put two in the chat and
Because
potentially
if he doesn't, then we'll have to respin.
we are moving on. Yeah. Yep, exactly. So
Ozzy wants to know Monstrum Ford
yeah,
magnifier. Have you
forward
seen one yet?
magnifier.
What do you think?
I have not seen
I
one.
haven't seen a Ford magnifier yet. No.
Yeah, I haven't. No. Nope. Coming up on about there, he says, okay, I guess I will keep the
Yep.
EDC
EDC
idea.
talk going. Yeah.
Oop, oop,
Oh,
there we
my
go.
bad.
Boom.
We keep pushing at the same time. You go
Yeah,
ahead and push it.
I'm gonna let you do it, and I'm gonna
All right,
stop the
there we
screen
go.
share.
There
How's that
you
sound?
go. He says, "How about lights on your EDC?" That's a great topic, and
Well,
I'll
it's a
let you go first.
lot of controversy from Ken Hackathorn, wasn't there?
Well,
I
a
feel
little
like
bit, yes.
we've talked about this a lot. I'm gonna have to
We have
channel
on
my
our
inner.
individual channels on
Oh,
our own
yeah,
podcast. Yeah, we've talked about this.
I'm gonna have to channel my inner Ken Hackathorn here a little bit, probably. Yeah, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Um, so I'm not gonna go as far as Ken did. I think that was ridiculous. Um, it's pretty acceptable just to say, yeah, I don't care for it and move along. Like
Right.
I don't care what you do, but I don't necessarily care for it. So I do have lights on a couple of different things.
Sure.
Um, talking about handguns anyway.
Mhm.
Scott's question or topic related to EDC. So speaking primarily handguns, um, I would never carry a light on my EDC simply because of the bulk
Yeah.
of that.
And weight and everything
So
else. Yep.
yeah. And then the lights in general to extrapolate on that, because if I was to carry an EDC, I'd have the same issues I have with lights. Period on pretty much anything. Is if you're using that light to spot, to see, to whatever, um, it gets into the ND talk we had earlier,
Yeah.
in that you're muzzle sweeping everything
Yep.
pretty much when you're doing that. Now,
Yep.
does the beam throw exactly? Can you have the beam off to the side?
Well, if
Can
you're
you
in the house, you can
put
shine
your
it on the ceiling and it
skill?
would light the whole room up, reflecting
Yeah,
off the ceiling. No, I'm just saying there's different things, but yes, yeah,
but are you going to be trained enough to
that's up
be
to the
paying
individual, isn't it?
attention to the angle of the
Probably
muzzle?
not.
And we get into this whole thing. I don't think so in a situation. So,
Yeah.
I've got lights on fun guns, range toys, hunting, um, things that go bump in the yard,
Yeah.
type uh, firearms, things like that. Um, yeah, just not a fan for carry because in
Yeah.
the again the bulk, and then in the event that I need to. I need to use it for some kind of a situation. A-
Sure.
and again, you're pulling it. What are you going to do? Pull it and turn the light on? That's wasted time
Yeah.
turning the light on. Like
Yeah.
it's weird. It's weird to me. That's all I
Yeah.
got. I don't know how else to
Um,
put it.
for EDC, I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
I do love weapon lights, especially on AR platforms. I've got them on most of my ARs. Not all, but most of them. Probably 90% of them have lights on there.
Yeah.
Not to, walk around the house or walk outside with them on all the time. They're more for quick looks around, peeks around corners in some shadowy areas or identification reasons, whether it's an animal or whatever it is, for sure. As far as home defense, now that's a different. I do have 3 or 4 handguns with weapon lights on there. My whatever you want to call it, bedstand gun at this point
Home defense.
is the 2311, and it has.
And that's what Ozzy's saying out there too. He has one of his home defense.
Home defense guns. Like my bedstand gun is the 2311, and it's got one of the Streamlights on there. Fantastic, love it. Would not carry one with a light. Would not. First of all, it's a pain in the rear to find a holster for that particular gun model with a particular light. Because even if you're using Surefire or Streamlights or any of these weapon mounted lights that are very, very common, Streamlight might have 20 different models, and each one's going to be different dimensions, which means you have to get a holster specifically for that light. And custom holsters are anywhere at least $100 usually, and if you take that light off and put another light on, now that holster doesn't work. So for carry, no, too bulky. All that home defense handgun, absolutely, I'm all for that. But no, I'm not a huge fan of a carry light for sure. My carry light is my micro USB stream light that I carry in my pocket, and that thing is badass.
Yep. Yeah, Scott out there, and that's what he's saying. He said, I do believe you need 2 lights, one handheld and one on your gun. I don't believe EDC on the gun. Again, I come down on the no for EDC, but everybody needs a flashlight in their pocket, or that's handy. And not just any flashlight. To me, the best EDC. You pick your brand. I'm a Streamlight. I've been a Streamlight fan as long as they've been around. I was using Streamlight before LEDs were even a thing. So love Streamlight. Unapologetic about that. You pick your brand. I don't really care. If you want your house to burn down, Olight's a good choice. But for EDC use, you can't be the tail cap activated, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Yep.
And so speaking of that, I've got the Streamlight Stryon, one of the many things that have come in that we've got to get reviewed and take a look at. But the Stryon is a double switch. It has the traditional, kind of behind the lens bezel button, like a traditional flashlight, and it's also got a tail switch. And they work and they work independently. So if you turn it on with one, you can turn it off with the other.
Nice.
So forth and so on. Yeah. Which is a pretty cool feature of that little flashlight. It also has up behind, is it in front of or behind the button that is up on the bezel? It's got a left to right switch that you can work with your thumb real quick for the brightness modes. So you don't have to cycle through the button. You can just flip it to whatever brightness you need.
On either side of it or just on one side?
It's at the top of it, I think.
Oh, the top. So no matter if you're right-handed or left-handed,
or it's above. It's above the switch.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Up front.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
But yeah, it's a 3 position for the 3 different brightness modes. And don't give me a line, like it just came in. I haven't even. It's got whatever charge was on it when it come in. I haven't even put it on the charger yet, but I had to get it out of the box and play with it. But tail caps preferably. They're easier to hold in the hand, especially when you've got a handgun and you're trying to brace up and do other things.
Yep.
Again, my opinion on
all
that.
About the tail cap with me as well. It's just easier. It's just easier. Yeah. And especially we're talking like handheld. So especially if you are going to kind of, when I say this, you'll understand what I mean. If you're going to FBI it while you're using your handheld, while you're shooting your gun, how they do it in the movies, the old FBI way from back in the 80s, having that tail cap power on and off button is nice there. But yeah, pick your poison. If you're not into lights, man, I tell you what, you'd be surprised at how addicting lights can be. Whether it's your weapon mounted or not, just handheld. But there's a lot of great light companies out there. I haven't worked with them yet, and I probably won't because I'm a Streamlight guy. But a lot of people are talking about Phoenix, and I've heard a lot of good things about Phoenix, but I don't work with them. I'm like I said, not that I'm against them. I'm one of those people. Once I find a brand that I like and I trust, I kind of stick with them, and that's where I'm at. I've got probably 30 lights, and they're all Streamlight. Oh, that's not true. I've got 2 or 3 Surefire because I was a Surefire guy until I discovered, and in my life, I discovered Streamlight, and I was like, oh, I can get a better light or at least a comparable light for half the price. So I'm in on Streamlight.
Yeah, I'm not a big, quote unquote weapons light, guy. So, I don't have any that are not Streamlight. But in my other lights, and let me caveat this by saying I've got a lot of cheap flashlight, like Harbor Freight. You get them for free.
I've got Walmart
batteries. The batteries are worth more than the flashlight is, right?
Absolutely. I'm talking the Walmart lights that you can get for like $1.
For throw around bangers in a kitchen drawer, that type of stuff, and especially if you got kids around the house that are prone to get them and run the batteries down. Keeping cheap lights like that around can be useful. But nice lights, right? Handheld, whatever, pocket nice lights. Other than Streamlight, Maglite, Maglight's still around, still doing things.
Absolutely.
I've got a kind of a soft spot still for Maglite. If you want a big honking flashlight you can beat somebody to death with, Maglight's the light for sure.
Yeah, see what I mean? I've got that sweet spot in that place in my heart, and I always will for Surefire. But once again, these days you can get it for a fraction of the price of Surefires. They're great lights. But I'll always tell somebody, if they ask me lights, I will always tell people, for personal reasons, start with Streamlight and go from there.
Yeah, but you're right. I mean, with Phoenix, I've seen a lot with Phoenix, and I've also been seeing a lot with Nightstick. And I think we talked with them once at a show. They've got some seemingly pretty good lights. Yeah, I can't speak to it too much, but no, I don't know. Thanks, Scott. We went from EDC on handguns to just talking about lights at random, but that's what we do on this podcast. You never freaking know.
And there's the 3D printing if you're into nerding out on 3D printing.
Right.
Get a hold of Clover, because he's gonna be wanting to nerd out here pretty soon with this stuff too. So
man, maybe, I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. I do want to say thanks to everybody that's been out there, and if you're watching this in replay or listening on podcasts, we thank you guys. We thank the people that are channel members of both Clover and myself, or that use our affiliate links or shop on our Amazon stores. Any way and every way that you guys support it does mean a lot. What we do ask you to do as well is go and support our sponsors, whether it's EAA or Monstrum Tactical. I'm not saying you have to go buy something.
I don't even care.
Obviously, we should
go say hey and thank you.
Go find a social media post on Facebook or Instagram and just make a comment. Say, hey, thanks for sponsoring the Ghost and Clover. We really appreciate you guys, and that means a lot. Tell them Ghost and Clover sent you. But make sure you go and support them as well as all that you can, because they support us and do a lot of things for us as well. So, what you got coming up, man?
Well, and give them crap about getting my 2311 back to me as quick as possible, please. So that can be something you can comment.
Well, I know Chase. I was talking to Chase Friday when I was at the range, and he said your gun came in towards the end of the day before he left. Paul was not there on Friday, so he won't see it till tomorrow. So.
Yeah. Well, that's fine. I was just,
and knowing Paul, he'll call you by lunchtime.
Probably. I was just advising people, rip on them a little bit because of that. That's all.
Well, rip on them for a lot of things. Now, speaking of 3D printing, in our little private chat, we discussed that 3D printer could be interesting for making some gag gifts for people's birthdays and all.
Oh, I guarantee
that could be really interesting.
Yeah. And we'll, in the off chat, we'll have that conversation, because I'm not doing it on this podcast. Some of the stuff.
No. Now, EJ says you should try to 3D print a tactical light. There you go.
Dude, there was, what was it that I seen that was so amazing? Dang it. I can't even think of what it was now. but it was there's just so many cool things, and there probably is a body that you can print for a flashlight and
Oh,
buy
I'm
the
sure.
electronics and make them 100%. There's so many different things that
We could
uh,
probably print something
cases.
and just literally slide that
Yep,
streamliner or whatever inside that and make it
true.
almost waterproof it almost, you know?
Yeah, or make it look like something different or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Color.
yeah, I
Yeah,
don't know.
absolutely. Yeah.
Absolutely, there's stuff
Oh, that's
like
a
that out
question I
there.
wanted to ask you. The filament colors, does it have to be black or can you buy filament
Oh, the
that's
colors
different
of the
colors?
rainbow. Some of it
Okay,
is.
so you can do whatever you want to.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. I
there's
was
glow in
wondering
the
about that.
dark. There's literally filament that every foot it's a different color. It's like rainbow striped. It makes a really weird
Mhm.
pattern. There's glittery looking like anything you want. It's like fabric, right?
Sure.
Like going
Yeah.
into a fabric store. There's literally anything you'd want.
Scott says about 3D printing guns for holster making. Well, if he would made holsters, I bet you he would be into that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who you got really? I know that you're almost done recording,
Technically,
but
yeah.
you still got a couple months of releasing the episodes. Who's being released to public this week? Do you
So
know?
I think SDS. Pretty sure SDS is Monday for the podcast, and JSD Supply, I believe, is Friday. Don't quote me
There
on
we
that.
go.
And yeah, we'll go through a couple of weeks into April. They'll be dropping. I am done, say for one guest. I am done with recording. We should have recorded with Pinkus from Video Arms Friday.
Had something come up though.
He had some family related issues, so our thoughts are definitely with Rob on that. And Rob loves the microphone, he loves the camera, so we'll definitely get him
It
rescheduled.
must have been something major if he's
Don't
given up
gotta.
microphone time.
Well,
So
it was
I know,
family related issues, but
I know. I'm not
yeah,
getting into it. It's a personal
his
thing.
love of publicity. He is not going to be hard to reschedule and get
Yeah,
done in the next 2 or 3 weeks before the season officially ends. So
yeah,
be
yeah.
looking for that. If you're a channel member, then you'll be able to catch that live. Hopefully, if YouTube does their job, catch that live as we record, and hopefully we can get that done this coming week. And then,
Yes.
man, so many things are stacked up. Oh my God, I've gotten 2 big boxes in from Streamlight. I can't even tell
Yep.
you the number of firearms that are here. A
Yep.
couple from Hammerly, the Gerson.
Yep.
My God, a Ruger. Like I can't even think of all the stuff that's here that needs to be done. So, um, yeah, once was waiting for the podcast stuff, the recording for that to get done, and then we're back to the regularly scheduled programming at least until NRA in May,
And then it starts over again.
and then yeah, we'll make contacts and start doing stuff like that. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. We've got Oriskany Arms as of right now coming
Yeah, you
on
do.
Tuesday. I'm going to talk some 1911 talk, man. Oriskany's got some really cool stuff. Next weekend, I think next weekend, we've got a Gideon video coming out. Still got a video with the Advocate coming from them. Got several things from Monstrum coming down the line. Got Disruptor video. I mean, I've got probably four gun videos coming out, a bunch of optic videos, all sorts of stuff. So yeah, we're gonna be busy all the way through May at NRAM, and then like I said, we'll start all over again as well. But yeah, Tuesday night's podcast, Arms Citizen Podcast, Tuesday night live at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Oriskany Arms. We'll talk 1911s with our friends over there. Anything else you got?
Well, if I could find the mute button,
Yeah.
but yeah. Well, what if I don't want to be a shoe?
That dude hit the effing bull. Guy gets a free steak.